We will get started. I want to thank everyone for joining us for club coaching training. We will have, just make sure, just letting people in. Okay, I just want to introduce two amazing people that will be leading our discussion tonight on club coaching. So I appreciate you guys all being here this evening. We will have Emily Sharp, she is from Kiwanis International. You must know her by now. She's our Northeast area director. She's amazing. And also we have Jim Janosik, I'm probably messing your name up, from Ohio. And he is our club strengthening advisor for Pennsylvania. So these two individuals have been amazing and helping us strengthen and support us in Pennsylvania and our growth. And I believe we're number two in our area. So that's exciting with our plus 130. You can verify that, but I want to introduce Emily first. So take it away, guys.
Guys, we are so excited that you're here. Like Sarah mentioned, my name is Emily Sharp. I am lucky to work with the Pennsylvania District, and even more lucky to work with Jim Janosik, who, like Sarah mentioned, is our club strengthening advisor. He is going to kick us off, so take it away, Jim.
Well, thanks, Emily. I appreciate it. It's always an honor and a privilege to be here with the Pennsylvania District, which I'm a proud member of as a member of the Centennial Kiwanis Club. I see some friendly, familiar faces here, too. I just wanted to start this evening's session off with finding out who amongst you had been a club coach previously through the formula or even before that. So if you could just in your little dialogue box or the reaction box anyway, just do a raise your hand and we'll flip through and see what reactions we have. So got Matt coming.
Seen a couple.
I got 3. Seen a couple coming in. Yep. That it? Just 3 of you? Okay. Well, that's good. So it helps us to know what we've got. So for those that have been coaches before, you will probably find some of this is familiar. The International Subcommittee on New Club Strengthening went and revised a bunch of the guides on club coaching for new clubs and for existing clubs. And we're going to talk about both of those a little bit tonight. So let's pop up the agenda there if we would, Emily. And so really what we're going to do is review the new club coaching section first, and then we'll pause and we'll take some questions, comments, feedback. If you have questions as we're going through this, we're a small group tonight. You can just unmute yourself and interrupt. That's perfectly fine. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, go ahead and put it in the chat. We'll pull that up as well. So, because we want to get all of your, this is really an interaction, and we want to not just throw a bunch of information at you, but we're going to give you the highlights. And that's really the review part of that is we're going to give you a lot of highlights on this, and then the club guides, or the coaching guides rather, that were linked in the chat box a few minutes ago will give you the full guides that were developed to give you a lot more detailed information. So, so after the new club coaching section, we're going to go a little more in depth about existing club coaching, which I think is probably more pertinent in the Pennsylvania District, given that there aren't many new clubs being built right now, but hopefully that's going to change, and you'll be prepared for that when that happens. So we're going to talk a little bit about measuring success as far as coaching is concerned, and then we'll dialogue with some scenarios. That's a really good interactive component. And then any other last questions and wrap up. So overall, we'll probably be here about 16 hours, I think is what we had slated for this. Is that right?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, great. So I don't think Zoom's going to run out of the time limit, right? So
no, we have a license. It's great.
That's great. So everybody put on a pot of coffee, right?
Look at everybody logging out. Look at everyone logging out now.
Yeah. We should really only be here about an hour because I know we all want to get some dinner and other stuff. So we'll try to get you guys as much information as we can. So, all right, let's go to the next slide. So your role as a club coach, this is the essence of it. It's providing a mix of the practical and the inspirational. So it's whatever that balance is for the club that you're coaching, you can really be that, just like a little league coach. You want to give them the nuts and the bolts and the skills and help them refine and do better and be better. But then you also want to really inspire. So think about somebody in your life that's been an inspiration to you, and has helped you through that. So in fact, we'll do this little task in the chat box. Share with the group, somebody that in your life, and it doesn't matter who, but somebody that's been an inspiration, but has also given you practical tools to help you grow. That could be any type of parental figure, religious figure, little league coach, tennis coach, Tiffany, maybe, I don't know, but a previous boss. Okay, that's a good one. Yep. A college mentor or boss. Yeah, it's a good person. Parents again. Yeah. Good coaches and good role models. And so think about those qualities and elements that church organist. Okay, that's good. That those people embodied, and that's really what we're looking as a club coach to embody and to share with clubs and their members that you are coaching. So let's go ahead and roll to the next slide. So a description of the club coach. Here's kind of the job description, the formal job description anyway. So the club coach works in conjunction with the district membership coordinator, which is Tiffany, and then the division lieutenant governor, to provide training, mentoring, and membership growth guidance. Now we're going to talk a little bit more that, club coaching is more than just membership growth. That's a big part of it, but ultimately there are a lot of other things that need to be worked on as well. In this position, we'll work with the new club opener for the new clubs, and ideally that happens early in that process. So as you are starting to identify where to build new clubs, that's a good time to get appointed and work as a new club coach with that new club builder opener. And then the club coach ensures that proper guidance is given to a Kiwanis club and serves as the primary mentor assigned to the club. Now, I will say that I've served as a coach for existing club and new club, and this is not a life sentence for coaching. The term that will really be defined based upon the needs of that club. New club coaching tends to be a little bit longer, and that's multi-year traditionally, because that really helps that club continue to develop and build its culture and be a strong club. Whereas an existing club might only need a coach for a few months. They might need a coach for a couple of years, depending upon what iterations of performance improvement that they're going through. So that's nuts and bolts of the description as a club coach. So I hope you all know what you're signing up for. So primary responsibilities are to work with the lieutenant governor, ensure that clubs that are under charter strength become independent and strong, mentor leaders on an ongoing basis. And that, is not just the president of the club. It's, others, directors and committee chairs and, even just members of the club, building that mentorship for them and connecting them with other mentors. We're not asking you to do it all, but help identify how members can pair up with one another in a club to mentor one another. So providing unfiltered and objective advice, really key here. That's a really big part of the task at hand. And then providing education to the clubs about district, regional, international types of events as well. We talked about in a few previous session about club strengthening, and a strong club is active just even outside of their community. They're engaged and they know what's going on in other Kiwanis communities and areas too. And that helps them be a stronger club because they enjoy that camaraderie, the idea sharing, etc. And then communicating with the district membership coordinator. Towards the end of the call, we're going to talk about the reporting tool that has been developed that you'll utilize to report some of your successes, challenges, et cetera, on where you might need help. But then again, always your district membership coordinator and myself and Emily and others at KI are available and willing to help you out. So, and then really the biggest tool, and we're going to go over it tonight, is the Achieving Club Excellence tool. That's the primary tool that will help you with coaching a club. So primarily for an existing club. So your team, well, you, the coach, the lieutenant governor, the district membership coordinator, you have club officers, and then any neighboring club coaches. Now, the new club coaching program has been developed so that you can coach a club virtually. So if there's not a club in your local geographic area, there might be one across the state or across the world even. You can team up to coach a club anywhere, basically. But working with other club coaches will help you troubleshoot and come up with ideas, and you can bounce things off of in terms of scenarios and saying, hey, my club is having this issue, what do you advise, etc. So, and then you're right, Sarah, the trustees as well. We should have added that one in here because you are Pennsylvania is a trustee district, so that they're definitely on the team too. So the appointment process for being a club coach essentially is to A, take this training, B, work with the membership coordinator and the district secretary, even lieutenant governors, to find out what clubs are in need of assistance. And you got to make sure that it's a right fit for you. I mean, just like every football coach isn't the right fit for that team. Sometimes a coach isn't the right fit for a club, and they need somebody else. So getting appointed is to serving as a coach is really that second step after taking this training. And then we're going to go through the process tonight of how that plays out. And then, you can rinse and repeat when it's all done, and coach another club. You can coach multiple clubs at a time if you're willing, and have the time and resources to do that. So, and then you would be officially appointed. You'd have a login on the KI dashboard that, or on your Kiwanis Connect, that would show that you're a club coach and what club you're assigned to. So I think you would have access to certain information of that club, like the secretary would too. So so that's the primary process. And then the reporting tool, again, at the end of that, that's a key part to it, is reporting back to the district and KI what your progress is with the club coach assignment.
Okay, friends, so now we're going to talk about new club coaching. So one of the things I want you to keep in mind is that regardless of if you are opening a new club at this very moment in time, there are things I want you to think about how you can apply this knowledge and this information to an existing club. Because, for example, you might recruit so many members that your club has more new members than existing members, and you might need to treat your club as if it's new. Maybe less paperwork, but maybe more practical ways. So before we even get started, I want you to think about how can you get involved as a club coach before the club is even in process. And by that, I mean, who are the key players that you need to get in touch with? Who are who are the community stakeholders? Who are you going to be reaching out to? Because if you are involved in the club opening process with the players as you're doing interviews, that will really help you make those connections and start to build those relationships with the people that you are going to be helping to coach within the club. So one of the resources is the new club opening guide. And Jim and I are going to reference a lot of different resources. So many, in fact, that if we were to just put them in the chat, you probably would just be clicking and clicking and clicking and reviewing all these resources. So to save you some time, we have sent all of these resources to Sarah and Tiffany so that they can share them with you in one email following this training. So don't worry, we're going to send you a lot of information. So you're a new club coach. Now what? Well, I'm really glad you asked. So the first thing I want you to think about is the plan for success. And what does that mean? When you are really focusing on the organization and to make it successful, some of the things you might want to think about are conducting that new member orientation. How are you getting the members integrated into the knowledge of what Kiwanis is? We as Kiwanians love a good acronym. We have SLP and ELC, NSLC. So what do all those mean? Is that a foreign language, or are we really including our new members into that lingo? What officer training are we doing? We're going to have to elect some officers. So your job is to help mentor those officers, and help get them in the right direction, on the right course, if you will. Assist in creating a committee structure. A new club is going to need to have that foundation that may or may not exist within your own club, but a new club needs that basic foundation of those committees. So you're going to help them create an outline for what they want in their club. And then help with incorporation, tax info, and bank accounts. This is a lot of the fun paperwork stuff. Like, raise your hand if you love paperwork. Right, if your hand is up, you're probably lying, but that's okay, because there are so many tools and tips and tricks that you can use that will help you know exactly what to do and how to best support the club as they are starting all of this important paperwork that has to be done to be an official club, if you will. We already mentioned mentor the officers. That is something that is really key here. Again, mentor. Don't tell them what to do. Assist them, guide them, coach them. And then finally, attend meetings and events as needed. That doesn't mean you have to go to every event. Could you go to every event that they have? Of course you could, but really you need to determine what that looks like and what your role in their events and meetings are going to look like. So the next step I want you to focus on is that community involvement. Like I mentioned at the beginning, getting started into the process of club coaching is really knowing who those key players are. Do you know who the mayor of the city is? Maybe you might want to add that to your list, is to find out who that person is, because you are going to be supporting the coordination of the first service project. And the club might need some ideas on what that looks like. Doesn't need to be something that is community-wide. Doesn't need to just be a service project that they do within their own club meeting. Is that a service project that they do with our youth programs? That is something that you're going to have to help them with, because they may or may not know. And yes, we have a resource that we're going to share with you. It has a bunch of different service project ideas that you may or may not have heard about before, and it also includes some fundraising ideas as well. Next, you're going to help plan the club's charter night. This is a really fun, and it should be fun. If it's not fun, you're doing something wrong. A big celebration of the charter members and the experience that you have had in opening this club. So the charter night is something that should be planned with the officers of the club and the club members at large. So definitely something you will play a part in. And also helping plan the first fundraiser. We know that clubs need to have some pot of money to be able to do, their first service projects and their first outreach, if you will. So you might help them utilize some resources in terms of fundraising. And we also have a great resource for you on that. So make sure to check that one out. So step 3 is all about helping the club grow in members and effort. I think that's a really key piece here. Yes, we want them to add members on a continuous basis. So because a new club is, something that is being established, it is a great time to share what Kiwanis is in the community and have people invite their friends, because if they are doing something new and fun and exciting to them, because why would they join if it wasn't fun and exciting for them, right? Then they are going to want to take that energy that they have and then share it with others around them. So it is your job to help them encourage these new members to invite their friends and their family and their acquaintances to their meetings, to the fundraisers that they're doing, to the service projects, as well as explore all the possibilities for chartering service leadership programs. We know that one of the big things that teaches, that keeps Kiwanis different from all of the other service organizations is our youth programs. That is what makes us special and unique, or one of the ways that makes us really special and unique. So as a new club, what is an easy way that you can get started with this? I'm glad you asked that question too. There is a BUG, Bringing Up Grades, or Terrific Kids program. Is anyone familiar with BUG and Terrific Kids? Raise your hand if you are. Great, perfect. So we're familiar with those. So as a new club, you can get started with those, and something that is super easy to do and something that you can easily incorporate into a new club's efforts when it comes to getting them involved with our service leadership programs. So here's the opportunity where I need you to talk with me, okay? I can sit and chat with you all day long, but it will be a lot more interesting if you share your thoughts rather than just hearing me talk. So here's my first question for you. What's on your mind? How are you feeling about what you just heard? Are you ready to go open a club right now? Great, everyone's ready. Okay, Sarah, we have done our job. We are successful. Perfect. What are your thoughts? Feel free to unmute yourself, put your ideas in the chat box. What are your questions about club opening? What can we do now to be prepared? Have you thought about that?
I know we're doing an additional training on new club opening with certain club opening teams that we're scoping out some of the areas. I know Danville is definitely a possibility. So I know there's a team there that will be getting trained, as well as the group on this. The lieutenant governors and trustees will all be invited as well. So we're definitely trying to prepare for that.
Good. Well, some of the things I would encourage you to think about is have those conversations now, because you never know whether you were voluntold to be here or really wanted to be here tonight. This training is so helpful because there may be a time that a new club is formed in your community or in the community next door to you. So be prepared to have those ideas ready to share, because even if this is not something that you are doing right at this moment, your neighboring community might do that. And so that might be something you want to focus on. So keep that in mind. Are there any questions before we move on to existing club coaching, about new club coaching? Okay, perfect. If you do have questions that come up, I'm a processor, so I like to think about things and then ask my questions. Feel free to let us know throughout in your chat box, and we'll make sure to cover them. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jim to talk about existing club coaches.
Thanks, Emily. I appreciate it. Great job on sharing the new club coaching. So I'm in my 4th year of coaching a new club that I helped open. And there's still continuous guidance needed, because we have a lot of people that had never been Kiwanians before. So that's a really important role to be dedicated to. So let's go to the first slide on existing club coaching, because this is the meat and potatoes of the whole program, because we need to really help a lot of our existing clubs that are stuck in some form or another. So you ever heard the phrase that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should listen twice as much as you speak? Well, that was ingrained in me very, very early. And that's really important as a coach to abide by that. Really to assess the situation of what you're getting into with a club, we need to understand that club and what brought them to the point that they are now, what they have tried, what they have not tried in terms of growing their club or improving themselves. So really work to understand the club members' concerns and their goals. Individually, you can do that in small groups. Really take the time to listen a lot before you really start to give advice and connect to resources. So considering what the club can do to improve, but we need to find out what they need to improve. So really be an active and engaged listener. Don't start off offering suggestions and advice and jumping in really too soon to try to solve the issues. So one key part about this is to really ask open-ended questions. So things like, what do you think? Or tell me about, or how can your club, or has your club tried? Ask them about why they're Kiwanis, why they joined Kiwanis, what their favorite projects or fundraisers or impacts are in the community. Really get the members and the leaders of the club to talk. I have found as a club coach, to really be able to be relied upon and to be a trusted source. People want to share with you. And if you give them the time of day, they will share everything and more than what you need to know so that you can formulate a good plan to help that club. So, all right, let's go to the next slide. So you're a coach. Now what? What are the club strengths? So this assessment part and the ACE tools really help with a lot of this. So it's, what are the club strengths? This can be done through like a SWOT analysis, strategic plan building, etc. What is the club struggling with? What part of that four-legged component is the weakest? Is it the impact they're having in their community? Is it finances and investment? Is it inspiration? Or the fourth one is eluding me at the moment. Image. Is it their image in the community? So is it lack of service, fundraising, members, etc. So really drill in and find that out. I like to ask the whys. It's just like that game the kids love to do when you say, well, what's the answer to the question, and you give them the answer, and then they say why, and then you give them that answer, and it's why. And so do that a number of times, and you'll really find out quickly what areas that club is struggling with and what they need to improve upon. And by asking those questions and having the club do that self-recognition and realization, they'll come up with ideas on their own about what they need to do to fix it. So sometimes the coaching part of it is just getting people to realize and accept that they have an issue, almost like a therapist, right? So
Definitely.
next slide. So the ACE tools that we have at Kiwanis.org/ACE tools really will help a club uncover new service opportunities and rediscover their community. So the community analysis tool in there is really impactful, and it gets an opportunity for the members to engage non-Kiwanians in their community. And a lot of that can be done virtually now too. You could throw up some Facebook polls, etc. But it's also an opportunity to have a dialogue with community leaders too, to see if they're what the issues are. Because a lot of times at a club that's failing in their service, it's due to the fact that it's not relevant to what their community needs. Because they've been doing an Easter egg hunt for 50 years. Doesn't mean that that's the right type of service activity that a community needs. So that's a really great tool. The other one is the membership tool. So it's the member analysis. So it allows the members to and if you want to, it can be done in either a very transparent or in a very should say like not a secretive, but a what's the word I'm looking for, Emily? Discreet manner.
There you go. I was thinking incognito, but that wasn't
Incognito. I don't know. Anonymous. That's the word.
There you
An
go.
anonymous way for them to really share their feelings. And by having them do that and give it to the club coach, they can leave, names and whatever out of it or in it, whatever. But it really doesn't like create any animosity or whatnot in that. But it's an important tool because we need to make sure that the members are engaged in getting what they need out of their Kiwanis experience. So. And then the roster analysis is also a good one too. So, do you have people that represent different communities within a club? And that's not just by profession anymore. I mean, that's by culture and age and race and religion, however you want to look at it, whatever the diversity of your community, does the Kiwanis Club reflect that? And that's important for the club to go through that process as well. So roster analysis will help with that tool. So, all right, what do we got next? Providing support. So here's a key thing about celebrating successes with clubs. It doesn't really matter how big or little that success might be. It might be bringing in one new member for a club that hasn't brought in a new member in 5 years, right? It might be having a new service project that is 5 hours of service. It doesn't have to be huge, but celebrate those successes. Your job as a coach is to help provide that recognition and support. Sometimes, as we become so ingrained with the people in our own little club, that especially in a smaller club, the recognitions don't seem as important, even though they are. And having it come from an outside source can really, from somebody that can really, matter and add to the pertinence of that celebration. It can really be impactful. Reviewing key habits with the club. So looking at things like, do they have structure for club meetings, board meetings, committees? They have systems and processes in place that are defined, and do they have succession planning in their club? So those are all good key habits to look at and review with that club, and then really helping the incoming officers and directors, even the existing ones, get that education, that CLE education. Sometimes it's one-on-one education. In new clubs, a lot of times we'll pair with the sponsoring club so that the president will mentor the president, the secretary mentor the secretary, et cetera. So for a period of time, they're kind of that mentor mentee relationship. And that's something that you can incorporate too, even as a club strengthening. Find another strong club that's nearby, and especially if the officers and directors don't have a lot of experience in those positions, they can always benefit from pairing up with somebody that does or has had that experience. So, and then really we talked about this a little bit earlier about getting the club involved in division, district, and international activities. I mean, the power of our organization is its largesse and the ability to network and share ideas and resources, and that comes from participation in those areas. So. And it's super easy to do all of that now because everything is on a little screen in front of us, right, Emma?
And I think that would be a really good challenge for all of us too, is to learn about one thing that another club is doing. Like, what is something that Barb's club is doing that I might want to incorporate into my club? Or what is one thing that the New York district is doing that I might want to incorporate into my district or whatever? So it might just be something to kind of help you think outside the box, because again, your job isn't to tell these clubs what to do, it's to provide support and to provide them ideas so that they can grow and be the best selves for their club experience. So something you might want to challenge yourself with.
Yeah, that's a great challenge idea. I love that. So lots of great opportunities for that engagement. So let's talk a little bit about measuring success. So we talked about Charter Strength Club is traditionally 15 members or more. It is important for a club to be at that minimum charter strength, right? Because that doesn't really place all of the burden and responsibility on an even smaller group of people to take on the leadership roles year after year, and to be the workhorses of the club. Now, certainly it does work. And some people are workhorses, and they're fine having it that way, but eventually people tire of that. And really to be a sustainable club, that 15 is really a good minimum number. So really the measurement of success here is, are you able to help that club create a culture of continual growth, of accepting new members regularly, continuously inviting people to come to meetings and projects and fundraisers, et cetera, and sharing what Kiwanis is about. So that will help them retain current members and consistently add more members, because we all know that we like to have more Kiwanis friends everywhere. So what better place to do it than in your own community, right? So let's talk. We touched briefly about relevant impact in the community, and the ACE tool will help with that greatly. But the identifying hands-on service projects will really help to lead to new or even strengthened partnerships within a community, requesting support from other community organizations, and it'll bring recognition to the club. So a successful club and a balanced club will have all of those things, and they'll be able to toot their own horn and share out on Facebook and press releases and everything about even the smallest little things that they do to impact their community. And they're also really open to working with other groups. So, partner with the Lions and the Rotary and the Elks and whoever else in that community, because a rising tide lifts all ships. And at the end of the day, we're all about improving the world one child and one community at a time, and that's not one club at a time, right? So sometimes we need to partner with other organizations and clubs to do that. So. And then member satisfaction, we touched on earlier with that satisfaction survey. That will unlock a lot of information, and it'll tell you as you're conducting that analysis, perhaps why people are not inviting others to join their club. So traditionally, the saying is, if you have a good experience, you'll tell one person. If you have a bad experience, you'll tell 10, right? So if the members are not having a satisfactory experience and they're not getting what they need out of it, which is different for every member, they're less likely to engage and recruit other people. So when they're engaged, they're participating in more service projects. They volunteer for committees, they attend meetings and other activities. So an engaged member is the best member that we can have. So, all right, let's talk about some questions. These are key questions to ask of the leadership when you're first looking to help coach a club. So I won't read these all off, but really talks about education, service, fundraising, projects, etc. This will give you a good baseline to know where a club stands. We talked in the last slide about a strong club and coaching a club and getting them to charter strength, but really a lot of clubs that need help with coaching probably are already over charter strength. Being a club coach isn't just for under charter strength clubs. You could coach a club of 50 members. You could coach a club with 250 members. Not that there is one in PA, but every club could be coached in some fashion or format. So, but we follow these same basic procedures and guidelines in doing that for any size club. So, anybody have any questions or comments about any of these questions or feedback on it? Pop that in the chat or raise your hand. Going once, going twice. Seeing none, we'll move on. Or throw it in there, we'll answer you. So membership recruitment. We talked a lot about it being a culture within the club, that they're continually recruiting members. That's a 24/7, 365 activity. And that comes from a lot of things. Yes, the primary thing is to ask people to join. It's important to verbalize it and not just expect that somebody says that they're going to, they've come to a meeting and they've been a guest and whatever, that they're going to say, hey, can I join your club? Because by and large, that doesn't happen. People want to be asked and invited to join Kiwanis. They want to belong to something. So really getting people in that club, getting the members and the leaders, giving them the words to the music, so to speak, so that they know how to ask people, how to approach people. Do they have the right tools, a business card or a club newsletter that they can forward, or a website address that they can send somebody to. Are people wearing, the K? Do they have, do you have a road sign like this one over my shoulder, in your community? All those visual things that your Kiwanis image
You froze, Jim. I don't know if you hear us.
Jim, I think we lost you, friend.
Uh-oh.
Okay, great. Well, while we're waiting on Jim to come back, I'm going to fill in. He was talking about, like, what do you have in your, maybe it's your wardrobe or in your house or in your yard that says Kiwanis, something easy that we can easily share with our community members, with our friends, with our acquaintances, that we can help them get involved with Kiwanis. So now we're going to move on to some scenarios. So these are real life scenarios that real club coaches have experienced. So I'm going to have some different situations on the screen. I'm going to read it for you. And then I want you to kind of talk me through, what would you do in this situation? Let me preface this by saying there is no right or wrong answer, but I just want to know, like, how would you tackle this situation? So the first one we're going to put up on the screen. I'm going to read it. It says, one of the clubs in your division has been nicknamed the Coffee Club. This club has met every Tuesday morning at a diner for the last 20 years, and the club's membership has gradually declined down to 12 members. Wanting to make sure the club stays alive, one member gives you a call to attend a meeting and help them boost their membership. During the visit, it has become apparent that the rest of the club is very set in their habits. How would you coach this club? What are your thoughts? What would you do? What conversations would you have? And Jim's back with us. Yay.
We don't have a club like this at all in Pennsylvania.
I don't know what happened, but thanks for picking that up, Emily.
Absolutely. Yeah, no one has experienced a club like this before, have they?
Nope.
Every Thursday.
Ah.
I wasn't going to call you out, but
Sarah,
I know. Well, this is hard, Emily. I mean, I think we could just start as a coach. You never want to tell them what to do. We want to kind of get questions out to them, like, what do you feel you're doing well? Do you feel your community thinks of you? Things, just trying to draw things out to start that conversation. That's how I would start, because you never want to say, you're doing this wrong, this is what you need to do. Because they'll just shut down in this, especially if they're a club that's set in their ways already, That's just my opinion.
That's a great answer. I love it. What else would you do?
This is Joy Ashley from Nickname Kiwanis. One of the things I think I would do is really to start to build a strong relationship with them. And, then I would ask them about the dwindling numbers, and if they had exit interview to review and see why people were leaving. And then maybe I would bring in scenarios with a club that made changes and how that have impacted the club versus one who, stayed the same way, and maybe the demise of the club, so that they can make that decision for themselves.
Those are some great suggestions. I love that.
Thank you.
For sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I love the thought of an exit interview. Are we doing those in our clubs? We should be if you're not already. What other thoughts do we have?
Barb Byers has her hand up.
Just thinking, do we, we ask them, why did they join in the first place? Why did you join Kiwanis? What was it about Kiwanis? Was it that that diner has really good coffee? Okay. Or what was the crux of why you joined? And are you still getting that back?
Mhm.
And if not, how can you get that back?
Absolutely. That is so good. Thanks, Barb.
With the clubs, or with a club where everybody is set in their habits, it's probably the most difficult scenario you could have come up with, and you hit it with us first.
Yep.
You've got to be communicating with them in such a way that you're getting feedback of some sort, so you can determine the openness to change,
Mhm.
who might be, who your allies are, and who your, don't like to use the word, but who your enemies are going to be,
Mhm.
because you're going to run into both. And this is going to take a lot of creativity, but that can't even come till you understand what you're working with.
Mhm. You hit the nail on the head. Thank you for
Yep.
sharing that. I think we have to be really realistic about this scenario because change is hard and it isn't always easy. So we have to realize also that it might not happen overnight. So as a club coach, some additional things that you might consider, besides everything else that everyone has shared, which have all been correct, you might consider asking them, hey, what about in 2 weeks, instead of meeting when we normally do on Tuesday morning, what if we met on a Saturday morning? Or what if we met on a Thursday evening? And see if you can start incorporating little changes such as that. But you also have to consider who is willing to make the change and what would that look like. So something for you to consider. Okay, we're going to move on to our next scenario. Okay, you are working with a new club and attending a recent board meeting. You notice that the members are having a hard time with their club culture, which is determining and fostering their culture from scratch has been challenging as members disagree on what it should look like. What would you do as a club coach?
I think one of the things as mentioned earlier, I think we might want to have them maybe attend another club board meeting, or appoint that group as a mentor.
Great idea. Thank you. What else? What else would you do? How do you help a club with their club culture?
Well, there isn't a standard rule for what a club culture has to be like. And the culture can really include anything that you want it to be. And this is one where you simply help to open their eyes. I mean, they've come together as a group to start this new club, come together on incorporating everybody's ideas instead of just one of the others.
Absolutely.
It's them to review what the mission statement is of Kiwanis.
Mhm.
One child, one community at a time, and see what parts of that they can tie into.
I love that. Yes, because it is really hard to argue when everything you do goes back to our mission. That's so true. Anyone else?
John had something to add there.
He stole my thunder there with the going back to the mission statement.
Perfect. Jim, do you have anything to add? I know this was a specific scenario that you've come across.
Yeah, so with new club building, traditionally, there's a team of people from the district or outside of the district that come together to help build that club, and they find different ways to recruit people. You'll inevitably find that a new club, not everybody knows one another. So them doing that storming part, forming together, is a challenging time to guide them through. So these are a lot of great answers, showing them how things are done in other clubs. There's no particularly right or wrong way to do things, as was said, but giving them access to seeing how it's done elsewhere is probably the most advisable route. And of course, it bringing everything back home to our mission statement and why they joined Kiwanis in the first place. Yeah, it's really hard to argue with that.
Love it. Okay, we're going to go to our last scenario. So you have volunteered. Wait, did I miss somebody? No. Okay. You have volunteered to help with a fundraiser for one of your Kiwanis clubs. Through conversations with the club members and observation, you have noticed that there has been a lot of effort for the amount of money they raised. You mentioned to one person that maybe the club should think about a different project, to which the member responded, "We have always done it this way." What would you do as a club coach?
And you can't say you're fired.
Why can't we? Isn't that the easier thing to do?
I would say we have always done it this way, but we're in a different time now. So we've never done it this way. Let's try something new. So if something works, keep it. If it doesn't work, oh well, let's try something else then.
Absolutely, for sure. Thank you.
Well, I spend probably the first 5 minutes with my head down on the table,
Hours
pounding my fist.
versus they may not be looking at the amount of hours from their volunteers versus the little bit of money coming in. It's something that they've done, they might be satisfied, but if they start to look at the hours put in to get the little bit, part of that project might be saved and they might come up with a way to make it better, but keep the basic parts.
Absolutely. I think
Yeah, you're really right there, Tom. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Emily.
no, you got it.
I was just gonna say, I mean, sometimes they need that outside observer, like a club coach, to help them come up with that risk reward analysis and really put it on paper to the number of hours versus the return on that investment in time. So that's where your role as a club coach can come in and help them come up with that realization. So Barb, go ahead.
Yeah, we have them kind of debrief about the fundraiser, because maybe the fundraiser is fine, but maybe it wasn't, it was in the wrong time. Obviously we're COVID, it was they had to put in a different part of the neighborhood. So do they look at, they've always done this, and if this is a good thing, debrief about it. What could you do better next time? If this is something you want to keep, is this really it? Kind of bringing that cost benefit analysis, but then saying, well, okay, well, you didn't really advertise this as much, or you forgot to put it in the penny saver or whatever. And if they want to keep it, say, okay, well then, let's look to see how we can better this. And if it then the next year, if it's, still the same way, then, well, maybe you do need to look at the community, and things have really changed with COVID. Maybe this isn't the best fundraiser to do right now if the plan is to make, X amount of dollars and you're not hitting that mark. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, I love the looking at it from a different perspective part. Maybe they there's not enough people helping with this project and one person is doing all the work. So maybe as a club coach, you can help identify that. I love it. Emily, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
I think one of the things in the scenario that I would change as the club coach is I would never mention to one person in the club that I think they should think about a different project. Like we're saying all along, we want them to come to the conclusion that it needs tweaking or it needs work with. So if we can somehow, like Barb and the others are saying, sit down to debrief with them and have them come to the realization that they may need to look at it, instead of us saying, you might want to think about it. Just being the facilitator more, not the person pointing out a problem, because if we point out the problem, they're not going to see it. But if they see it as a problem, then they might look to find a solution. So just being careful with that, if that makes sense.
It totally makes sense. And I love that you bring that up because it's a great point of this scenario and of this conversation that we're having now. It is your job to guide because they may not always agree with you, and that's okay. And I think, like you said, getting them to come to their own conclusions is what's going to help them get the buy-in for your support, but also the buy-in for the work that needs to be done. Thanks for sharing.
And there's another side to that, because you may have part of your group that are trying to work for positive change, and they're running into a bit of a wall, and they might need that that mystery shopper look, or that a fresh eyes approach from somebody else, have it coming from the outside rather than because you're not going to get it from the inside sometimes. It really it depends on the club you're trying to coach.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that you bring that up too, because I think as you develop a relationship with the club, as the club coach, you will be able to tell, here's sometimes where I need to drop some knowledge or drop some, hey, like, let's think about it this way, or help guide them to their own conclusions. That's a great point. All right, we are almost done with our time tonight, but there's a whole list of people up on the screen, and I didn't even list Sarah up here, but Sarah and team can definitely help you with this. But there are a lot of people, including Tiffany, Jim, myself. You also have Gordon Meth, who's the area membership coordinator, and Regina Woods Mitchell, who's the club opening specialist on staff. This is their contact information, and we will make sure that you get this information as well. And we are always happy to help with anything and everything you might need, whether that's a resource, whether that is bouncing an idea off of. But you are very lucky to have Tiffany and the leaders with Pennsylvania in your district, because they are full of knowledge and definitely have a heart for service. So Jim, I will let you wrap us up.
Great, thanks, Emily. So here's where we open the floor to you. I mean, I know we imparted a lot of information on you this evening, and certainly we don't expect you to feel fully 100% equipped to go in and coach a club right now. So we're giving you those couple of resources on the coach guides. We're availing ourselves to you to give you additional one-on-one instruction as you need it. So we want to just really thank you, first of all, for your service and your willingness to step up and be a club coach, whether it is one club, a year from now, or 5 clubs in the next 6 months. Everybody can have an impact as a club coach. So we really thank you for that. So now we're just going to open it up for questions, additional comments. What else do you need from us, that we can help you with at this point? Barb, do you have I see you have your hand up. I don't know if you're still, if that was
Oh.
still raised from earlier.
No, I was, hi.
Anybody, you can just unmute yourselves too.
No, I
Is
think
this the
that,
only training, Jim? This is the only training session that
Tiffany, I don't know. if
I'm
that's-
sorry, my Zoom is lagging.
I know we're gonna be doing the new club opening in May with Regina. As far as club coaching, as of right now, this is the only one that we had scheduled with the Zoom meeting, if that's what you're asking.
yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I wondered if there'd be another workshop.
I mean, that's always a possibility. I know we had one in the fall and then we have one now. So, we could definitely look to do something in the next couple months to do another one if Jim and Emily would like to come back and join us. So yeah, definitely. If I know, and this is being recorded, so obviously we will send that out as well. But if I'm sure more information comes out and different slides come available, we'll talk with the KI team and we could start putting it out another training for you guys.
Absolutely. The more knowledge you need, just tell Tiffany and we will make it happen.
I had a question, maybe more for Tiffany. Is this something that clubs notify you as membership chairperson or lieutenant governor, that kind of thing that they are interested in? Or as a lieutenant governor, is this something that we can offer to clubs?
Well, I know back in when we did our Q2 calls, we asked that the lieutenant governors go and talk to or recognize 2 clubs that you might feel to need to do the club coaching. So that's the first step. Maybe if you want to put as lieutenant governor an email out to the officers of all your clubs and just suggest that you're there and have a membership coordinator for your region plus the trustee. And if you have any if the clubs are in need of any help, maybe you have a club that you don't know about that, needs help, but they know internally. If you reach out to everybody in your division and just let them know that, hey, we're here for you guys. If you have any questions, if you need any help, please reach out. So I would definitely do that as well as maybe, talking to those 2 clubs that we asked you guys to contact about.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Quick question here from Emily Reed, and I'm not on screen because I was slimed and I'm covered in green slime. When I know this is horrible, but when is time that club coaching hasn't worked and doesn't work and the club doesn't need it for us to, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I think I do. So again, it's not a cure-all, and the coach is not always the right fit for a club. Sometimes they need a different coach and a different perspective. But yes, there are times where a coach is not fully able to help a club. The process works better when the club is obviously willing to be coached. They have to be able to accept some outside objectivity and help. Without that, it's really pointless to just say, hey, your club needs a coach and we're assigning you a coach. You're not going to get good buy-in and good results on that. So, and that's really probably where it fails the most.
So what can you do? What can you do to help that kind of club that's not really interested in coaching or interested in, do you just kind of grin and bear that and suck it up and kind of just let it go? That's the hardest part that I'm having, I think. I've already set up with Ryan, and I have set up meetings with all of our clubs to talk about things, and one club just is not interested at all.
When a couple years ago when Phil Weber was president and I had a governor, and I had a chance to talk to him about a club up in my area, and I say the same thing. I mean, they're an older club, you give them all the resources and they just not changing. They're just not doing anything, even though you've talked to them, other people have talked to them. And he said to me that just let them die out. And that's basically the thing. If they're not willing to change and wanting to fix it. I mean, you've done everything that you can. I mean, you could still be there and tell them, okay, I'm here if you have anything, but I mean, you really, like Jim said, you need to have like clubs that like are on board and wanting to help to change, because if not, they're just going to be in their stubborn ways and they're just not going to want to change at all.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Tiffany. It's Darwinism basically at its best, and a lot of times that does happen in a club. You know, will die out, and hopefully another club with a new culture can be, you know, built behind that. You know, it's also not to say that there aren't opportunities to really work on club satellites with an existing club to kind of do a spin-off, you know, in a community if it, you know, can support that. It's a big asset in your arsenal to use that tool, or even build an entirely new club in an area if it's needed. So, but that does bring up a really good point about asking specific questions to help gauge interest with a club, because I would assume that most clubs that say I don't need help, they either have had a bad experience with a club coach in the past, so that's good information to know, or they just don't know what help they need. So maybe we can come up, maybe Emily and I will work on coming up with some questions that you could just fire off in an email or something, you know, that kind of gets to the root of it a little quicker. They can gauge their interest and seeing what challenges they might have.
Yeah, if you don't have buy-in, you're going to be exhausted and not your best self. So the key is buy-in, and if not, they will eventually come around. If not now, then later. Yeah, Jim will send you some questions. We'll work on that.
Thank you.
I think that one of the key things that, I mean, you asked what you could do to help us, and that I think the idea of just continuously reaffirming your willingness to be a resource, because I know in my case, I'm, you know, I love the idea of club coaching. I'm going into my first year as lieutenant governor, and I'm going to stick on as president too. But I mean, just listening to the presentation today has been, it's helped me a lot in how I'm looking ahead at being lieutenant governor. The information that has been shared here can be applied in a lot of other places.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I, for one, would like to be considered open to just about any kind of education that is coming across the board, because I'm learning as I go. And there's probably a lot of us that are doing the very same thing. So, I mean, I know I can look at people up, I can point to people here on the screen right now and say, I know that person's, he's already been there for me. He's already answered questions for me. But I think number one, the being a resource is really probably the number one thing.
Absolutely, you're 100% right, Cal. I mean, being that resource, and then also going to other resources as well, because just like a club president isn't going to know everything, a club coach isn't going to know everything. So work your way up and around to find out the answers and tools that you need to support your club. So we're going to wrap it up really with the next step. You know, you guys will get a certification. You'll be appointed as a club coach. So really the next step is working with Tiffany and her team to identify what clubs need coaches right now and are willing, and getting you assigned to a club, which may or may not be in your immediate area. But we'll make sure that there's a good pairing. And if you're willing to do it over, a Zoom coach, that's a great opportunity to do some service there too. So we'll get that stuff taken care of for you. We'll get the email out with all these other links and resources that are available and our contact information. And Emily, unless you have anything else to add, I think we can turn it back over to Sarah.
Thank you. We appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Time back. Thank you. Thank
Just
you,
in time.
Jim. I know. Thank you guys for joining us. Actually, Tiffany, do you want to discuss next steps for the lieutenant governors?
Yeah, what we're gonna do is, because we love Google stuff so much, we're gonna send out a slide, a sheet about the clubs that we want you guys, we asked you guys about those 2 clubs to go and talk to and work with. So we're gonna start one of those Google spreadsheets and send out, and you guys could just add in the information into that, just so we know what clubs that you are going to be working with. If you have had any feedback from them, anything that you guys can think of, we'll put that in there. And then if you all know of any other clubs that might need help as well, please let Sarah and I know, and then we could start to see, who can work on those clubs with that as well. Is that what I was supposed to say, Sarah? Okay.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Yeah, so we want to, you guys are certified club coaches, and we want to support you as you coach your clubs. I know we talked about some struggling clubs during our quarter calls, so we definitely want to make sure you guys have those tools and resources, and we'll send you a slew of links from Emily and Jim to help you with that. And also, just so you know, the next session, we do have a new club opening, like I mentioned earlier, session with Regina Woods Mitchell. And mark your calendars, that will be Monday, May 17th. I believe I said 7. Is that correct?
Yeah.
7 o'clock, 7 p.m. So that email will go out. Tiffany will send it out to you when we get all finalized. And the same thing, you'll register just to make sure you get the links. And everyone here is invited. So trustees, lieutenant governors, and membership committee as well. So
yeah. And I'm not sure, Sarah, if you heard, so Tom was asking if we were going to do more of these trainings. I mean, if you guys want to, let us know, when we did these Thursday trainings, I guess you want to call it, we basically took what we got from the boost sessions on what members that joined wanted to see. So the same thing with you guys, if there's something that you guys feel that we need to do, let us know. We could come up with something. If we can't do it, obviously we have other resources of people that could come into the district, with Emily and Jim, and then Regina with doing the new club opening with that. So if you could think of anything, let us know, please. Don't hesitate. You have all of our emails, and Matt is also on the call too. So the 3 of us, we're here for you guys. Just let us know if anything you guys need. But I want to thank everyone for coming. This is a great turnout. So thank you.